Hello, everyone. This is Dano from DefDevice, founder and e-commerce consultant. And on my podcast episode of the day, I invited an old friend to come along and to join me. Welcome, Mr. Kevin Wu.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we met at the event of the German Chamber of Commerce, Malaysian German Chamber of Commerce, I think last year it was. So we are both member of the German Chamber, which happens to create and host some very entertaining and very interesting events. I think you have also attended quite a few of them, right?
Yeah, love meet. It's always good meeting a bunch of people who have a common vision of building cross-border relationships between Malaysia and Germany.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really like the German chamber here, and it's great for networking, for meeting new people, meeting like international companies, representatives, and also just have some drinks and very nice food. And they tend to pick like really amazing locations for their events, so that is another big benefit. But let's
Yeah.
get to you, Mr. Kevin. What are you doing these days?
So just a quick introduction. My name is Kevin Wu. I am currently based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I'm a five times founder of various startups from legal services, food technology, furniture retail, luxury car rentals, and a fund management company as well. I was recently listed on Forbes as 30 under 30, and I am a trained lawyer where I was called to the bar in both London and Malaysia.
Oh,
So
wow. That
currently,
sounds.
yeah, it's a handful of things, but how I
Hmm.
typically introduce myself is I'm an entrepreneur based in KL, just involved
Hmm.
with a bunch of different things with a few friends doing various things. So it's always interesting and exciting, and it's good to have this exposure in various different industries for me.
Oh, yeah. I think that is the connecting point between us, the entrepreneurship, and you are definitely an entrepreneur, like multiple times entrepreneur. And it's also fun to have to speak to someone in Kuala Lumpur. It doesn't happen very often. So we are actually in the same time zone. We could have been talking in person also, but yeah, it's so much easier online. Yeah, so you are working on several businesses in law, in food and beverage, luxury car rental. Holy cow! I mean, are these all active? Are you still like engaged in all these businesses?
Yeah, very much so. Some ventures are more active than others. For example, the least active would be the luxury car rentals, right?
Hmm.
Where it's a very low sort of headcount sort of venture. That only employs 1 to 2 people, whereas my furniture retail employs up to around 60 people as of last
Wow.
week. So it's a very different type of venture, and the time commitment required between the ventures is very different. Obviously, some ventures are a lot more active and more vibrant, whereas some it's sort
Hmm.
of beating around the bush and figuring out product market fit.
Hmm. Hmm. So which one is your favorite at the moment?
It's like choosing a child. Obviously, I love them all. But jokes aside, I'm very focused on my legal profession. I'm still a practicing lawyer day to day. I have a
Hmm.
team of lawyers which I manage, and I still do meet clients and execute agreements and documents. It's something I was trained to do went to law school and everything for about 6 years. Um, and
Hmm.
I've been practicing law for the past 7 8 years now. So it's something that I really enjoy doing. I was trained to do.
Hmm. Do you see artificial intelligence having an impact on the lawyer business?
Yes and no. I think if anyone who is familiar with ChatGPT or any of the similar AI tools out there, you can get pretty incredible answers and response. But I'm not sure if some of you, the listeners, have come across this recent case that a New York or New Jersey based attorney used ChatGPT to write a case and a submission in front of court, and he didn't fact check that and just literally copy and paste. And turns out that ChatGPT suggested a bunch of made up cases that were fictional, and the judge is considering sanctions against the lawyer and penalizing him as an example.
Oh, that
I
is
can
an
see that.
interesting piece
Yeah.
of news. Okay, yeah, I didn't know that, but yeah, I think how they call this when ChatGPT doesn't have enough facts, they start to just imagine stuff. There's a term
Yep.
for it, but
Um,
but
uh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but of course, I mean, if you think you can just replace like a trained and a skilled human being with by typing prompts into ChatGPT, I think that's a very
Yeah.
dangerous thing to do. I mean, it's
Yeah.
I'm using it all the time. It's great for proofreading, for copywriting, and all that, but you cannot replace a human being who actually knows, the context and has the background knowledge to fact check. Yeah, I completely agree. Very interesting. But are you using it in your daily practice?
Not as often as I would like. I know Microsoft is coming out with a tool to plug into the Microsoft Office and suite of products. So potentially, maybe one day when it's more integrated and a bit more established, I don't think that
Hmm.
would be very far in the future. But just want to add that it's something that we are treating with caution, because based on
Yeah.
some of the responses we get, our clients are engaging us for our expertise and our experience in our
Hmm.
matters. And
Yeah.
especially litigation, the law changes all the time, right? What was
Hmm.
applicable 2 3 years ago is definitely not applicable today. So
Hmm.
I think AI is good in terms of having collecting a lot of data and summarizing in a very neat format. But in terms of moving forward in the future and determining where the law should go, how to best apply it, it's still lacking.
Hmm.
But I do think that
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
day it would be robust enough to be able to
Hmm.
use for business and commercial purposes.
Yeah, yeah. I think the big potential lies in those trainable language models where you can actually train this AI to learn what your company is doing specifically, and actually like feed them with all your cases, with all your write-ups and all the things that's happening in your company. And I think that would be an interesting application of it. But yeah, I mean, we are getting a little bit off topic here. It's easy to get lost in the AI world. Today, it's all about you, Kevin, and I would really love to hear your life story. And how I normally start this is by doing a little time travel to 10-year-old Kevin, or teenage Kevin, or even below 10-year-old Kevin, wherever you would like to start, and let us share with us what was that Kevin like.
Sure. Maybe I can just take us back to when I was 10 years old. As I mentioned earlier, I was born in Malaysia, but I
Hmm.
was not raised in Malaysia. When I was in Malaysia, I lived in Malaysia until I was 12. So I did
Oh,
my primary education in Malaysia. And unfortunately, not many people know this, but I was a massive failure in school, right? I was
oh,
not engaged in
who would have
school.
thought? Not a
I
good
turned out to be
student?
no, terrible student. I think primarily it came down to engagement, right? Especially in a rigid system like the Asian society, a lot of the education curriculum is based on following a set of rules and just
Oh, yeah.
memorizing, vomiting it out, which I felt no sense. What's the point of writing 30 lines of the
High
same
five.
word? Right? And I just felt that it's just ridiculous. I did not perform well at all until my family moved me to the UK. This was around 12 years
Oh.
old, and I really
Mm.
appreciated the sort of skill focused learning in the UK. So there, in the UK, there was more emphasis on problem solving, communication, creative thinking, etc., etc. Right? And I
Hmm.
think that really sort of pushed me further and made me realize my potential. So I eventually did perform a lot better in school, and eventually went to law school and qualified as a lawyer. And this would
Mm.
not have happened with the previous system and the way I absorb information in the Asian sort of system. So
Wow.
yeah, that was one of the main highlights. So I moved to the UK. I was 12. Got to sort of was exposed to the European sort of culture, way of thinking for the first time. I think that's very insightful. Hence why I'm very active still in some European Chamber of Commerce to just have that sort of bridge between Asia and Europe, as I believe it's part of my heritage in terms of uh, my education, my background, the way I think, and the way I
Hmm.
currently do business. So I
Hmm.
think it's a very unique, a bit more unique experience because a lot of my peers, especially in Malaysia, typically go overseas when they're at university. So typically 18
Hmm.
years old and typically stay there for 3 to 4 years. But I stayed there for about 12 to 13 years. So it's a bit
Oh.
unusual in the sense that I was there for quite some time.
Hmm. Oh yeah. And what made you pick law as your main subject? I mean, when you finish high school, there are so many options, right? So did you always have this kind of affinity, or was it something your father told you, or where did it come from?
I think for example, in my particular family background, I was the first. I'm the eldest of five, so I'm the first to have gone to university. So I guess I didn't know what to study. I think being a doctor, engineer, lawyer sounded good. Personally, I wanted to be a banker, banker at the time, but I think my math was not as strong as some of the other students. I think in order to go down that profession, you need to have very strong, not just economics, but mathematics and physics grades. So I couldn't go to the university I wanted to. So I think the next best profession, if your maths is average, is to go down the legal road. I
Hmm.
really like reading. I have a good memory, so I think the legal route was the next best option
Hmm.
after being a investment banker.
Oh yeah. And then when you go into this legal world, I'm sure there are also so many like sub niches which you can pick, right? I mean, you can be a lawyer for all kind of things. I think no lawyer kind of covers the entire world of law. So, which one did you pick?
When I when it was time to specialize, I went down the corporate route,
Hmm.
specifically mergers and acquisitions. So
Hmm.
when I first moved back to Malaysia, I joined the second largest firm in Malaysia, practicing corporate M&A. And
Hmm.
I primarily advised on the sovereign wealth fund of Malaysia in
Hmm.
terms of domestic investments across the country. So that was a very unique and a very eye-opening experience in terms of how sovereign wealth funds work and how big private equity move and how capital is really allocated and moved around the country. So
Hmm.
our economy is not as vibrant and dynamic as some of our neighboring countries, but I think it was very good exposure given I was very young and didn't know much at the time.
True. Wow. Interesting. And what did you make? What did make you go back to Malaysia? I mean, after finishing university in UK, you could have went wherever, right? You could have went US, stayed in UK,
Yeah, this is a
any other
fantastic
place.
question. Yeah, I think the main driver was family at the time.
Oh.
Most of my family were based in Malaysia. I still really missed home in the sense that every time I was in the UK, it would be the weather would tend to be not so nice. It would always be
Yeah.
cold and wet. So I sort of miss Malaysia. There's a soft spot for it in terms of not just the weather, the family, or also the food. If anyone who has ever visited Malaysia or neighboring countries, the food options here are amazing. So I quite like the lifestyle. So I felt the affinity to sort of come back here. But that being said, I've never have really thought much into it. But the question of whether I would relocate ever in the future, it's not a hard no. I see
Mhm.
myself as being quite flexible. Yeah.
So it could happen that maybe a few years from now you would be living somewhere else. That would be an option also, right?
Yeah, I think it's never close any doors in life.
Hmm.
Always keep
Hmm.
them open, keep options
Yeah.
open. I think that's a good way to think.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you on Malaysia being a beautiful country and a really nice place to be. I came here like 13 years ago, I think, for the first time, and I kind of fell in love with it because, as you said, the variety, the endless summer, the people being friendly, and so many other things we can do in Malaysia on a daily basis. So yeah, it has its perks and its magic, and yeah, look at me, I'm still here, even though technically I also could work from anywhere in the world. Actually, yeah, as we say, Malaysia Boleh.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I speak to a lot of my friends from all over, right? And if you actually visit here and spend time and energy and invest in knowing how to learning more about the country, it's a great place to be. Cost of living it's relatively lower compared to a lot of capital cities around the world. It's relatively safe. People speak English, so I think
Yeah,
it's a bit of a hidden gem right now, I would say.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
but no place is perfect. We do have our downsides, but yeah, I mean,
Of
so far
course.
so good. Yeah,
Yeah. It's of course I agree. No place is perfect, but just the two things that everybody speaks English and the whole rental situation, how easy and low price it is to rent an apartment. It's these two factors alone are quite amazing to me and quite unique in Southeast
no,
Asia. I think
I,
I don't think
I
there's
think
any other place where you can speak to everyone in English on once, and then also can just go and rent an apartment every day of the week if you want.
yeah, 500 to 1,000 US dollars, right? You can get a very nice
Yeah,
place with a full
yeah,
pool
a
with
nice furnished place. Yeah, when I
three,
first
four
saw that, and
bedroom.
yeah,
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 yeah.
and
When
tennis
I came
courts.
from Munich here, tennis
Yeah.
court, swimming pool, all the facilities, gym. In Germany we don't really know this concept of fully furnished. There's no such thing.
Mhm.
Everybody who moves brings a truck of stuff, and starting from the sink in the kitchen and everything they bring along. And here, it's everything is basically fully furnished, so you can just move with your suitcase, if you want to. So it's a very different type way of living. Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's also getting more and more friendly for digital nomads. They have some kind of digital nomad program here right now where you can apply to stay here, I think, for 1 or 2 years, if you kind of tick the boxes. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we could talk a lot about Malaysia, but yeah, this is about you, Kevin Wu. So you have gone all the way from Malaysia to UK, coming back to join your family, starting a bunch of companies here.
Mhm.
Um, what uh, what would you tell a young entrepreneur today if you wanted to start doing his own business? What would be your best advice for them?
My best advice is just don't be afraid to fail. Because in startups, in entrepreneurship, you are going to hit a lot of walls. It's never as smooth and as straightforward as one might think from the outside, right? But if you ask many entrepreneurs, there are tons of battle scars and paper cuts, right? What I would say, right? Along the way, and we're bruised up in a way. That you need to have the understanding that things may not go your way. I have a lot of friends of mine who performed super duper well in school, went to uh, got good grades at university, got great corporate jobs after. But when they go into entrepreneurship, right, when the path is a lot less trodden on, it's a lot less walked on, it's a lot less paved. You're going to encounter bumps along the way. There's
Mm,
very rare that an entrepreneur sort of glides through this whole process and 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 run a business without having those bumps. So I think it's part of the learning process. Don't be afraid to fail. But no, I'm not saying don't take risks as well. Do take risks, but take calculated risks. There's some risk that's not worth taking. So it all depends on every individual situation because I don't know the audience well enough, right? So I would advise the audience to just keep an open mind, just be willing to fail fast and fail cheaply, and just fail
mm,
forward.
mm. Yeah, yeah. I think that is I mean, this is what I keep hearing from entrepreneurs. It is a bumpy road, and all overnight successes have been years in the making. So if you see these fellas, on the front page, with their Ferraris and or whatnot, it takes a lot of time and effort and that we have to have the resilience to overcome all these bumps. And I also like to kind of rephrase this failure thing. One of my favorite coaches in this area, John Loga, he says there is no failure, there's just success and learning. And I really like this kind of framing. I mean, failures. I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, when things don't go well, and we don't, we don't succeed, we don't find what we're looking for. It is technically a failure, but it's also a learning, right? So we keep on learning what not to do, and then when we succeed, that is where we want to be. But that actually doesn't teach us so much. So I like to look at it as as learning and success, these two kinds. But yeah, I agree. We have to be resilient, and we have to expect resistance when we make our own decisions, and we don't simply follow what our boss is telling us.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is a good juncture for me to add in a couple of examples, right, of
Yes, please.
past case studies. Like, for example, Elon Musk, he's had many failures, right? Many successes, but failures as well, right? And at one point, his companies were about to go bankrupt, and there were tons of production issues, shortage of certain materials or expertise or capital. So tons of near-death experience for sure. The other ones are someone like Jeff Bezos, right? Like, he's found successes in Amazon retail and AWS, but also failures along the way as well. For example, if anyone remembers the phone that they tried to bring in the smartphone.
Oh, yeah.
So tons of failures, also tons of successes. So you just want to hope that the chances of success outweighs the number of failures that you're going to go into. So that you've got to take a calculated risks.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, even the big boys. And I hear there are like billionaire clubs, they have these mastermind groups, where you can only enter when you have made like 100 million plus.
Oh,
and
I'm
apparently
part of that.
Oh, you're not part of it? Oh, yeah, I'm still applying. Yeah. And apparently one common quality all these people have, that they all have went bankrupt once, at least once. Most of them have been bankrupt twice. So I find it also quite interesting to hear that the people who are like in in 8-9 figure businesses, they all have faced bankruptcy at some point in their life, and it seems to be like a qualifying criteria. So if you haven't gone bankrupt yet, you are not qualified to be in this club, because you're not there, you're not ready. Yeah. So I think it's quite good to know for people who start on this entrepreneurial journey, which can be daunting, can be very challenging, and there can be times when we really have a hard time sleeping and all that. But yeah, so we are not alone. It is something which seems to come along with this journey. Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah, I've learned so much about you, Kevin. Anything else you would like to share with us? What's happening? Where are you going next? What's coming up in your life, in your business life?
Yeah, I mean, what's coming up? Currently, just working on the existing ventures. Looking to go into more F&B a little bit. Similar to your Luckin Coffees, I'm trying to set up a fast coffee chain here in Malaysia, and then expand regionally. Because ultimately, I feel that caffeine is there are many sort of customers of coffee, right? You have your sit down Starbucks, you have your specialty coffee, you have your local coffee shops here which sells fairly cheap coffee. So I'm targeting the in between, the coffee as caffeine as coffee as just a very convenient mode to absorb caffeine. So the fast coffee model. So I'm looking to explore into that, and happy to
Okay.
speak to anyone who's just interested in coffee.
Okay. I drink coffee
Yeah,
on a
great.
daily basis.
I'm
We can do brainstorming.
coffee. Yeah. Be nice to have a chat after this about how you drink coffee. So I'm very keen on everyone's relationship with coffee right now. So I'm happy to talk to as many people about coffee as possible.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm sure you will find a lot of coffee lovers, even in Malaysia. I mean, coffee is not the first thing. I mean, for local people, they drink teh tarik and like other things. But of course, there's a bunch of expats here, and they think most of all drink coffee. So there should be a very substantial audience for you
Yeah.
to interview here. Cool. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best of luck with your ventures. I would like to check out your luxury car rental. If you have Lamborghinis,
Yeah.
I would be happy to have a look. And of course, I'd be happy to support your coffee venture.
Yeah.
We will leave some descriptions and links in the description under the video. So whatever you would like to share with the audience, we will leave it there so people can get in touch with you. And I would say thank you so much for being my guest today, and all the best moving forward.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to anyone who wants to reach out to me. Just add me on LinkedIn and drop me a message.
I will do that. Kevin, all the best.
Right.
We'll stay in touch.
Thank you.